All right, we're live in EJ's basement in the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah, as crazy it is. This is the maiden run of two-person podcasts in the basement.
Oh, yeah. Well, I got to tell you, I felt a little bit like I needed a paper with it almost felt like a little hostage negotiation, like sit up straight, have this, here's your microphone, don't move, do not move. It's nice to be here.
We can get you proof of life.
Yeah, proof of life.
Yeah.
Nice comment from your wife, who's making sure everything's quiet upstairs. And I'm happy to be here. And I'm going to do my best to not stare down at the laptop on my lap and try to focus on the camera because I'm not used to this setup. But
No, neither am I. And it's much nicer when you can put the camera right above the screen you're looking at. But I'll be trying not to do the same. But anyways, we think it's all probably, pretty worthwhile to bring you a live podcast of Bears Over Beers, which we've only done we did it at training camp.
Training camp, yes, but that was pre-video.
Oh, it's true.
So we've never done a video version.
Okay, so here you go, world premiere.
And this is so we're going to be doing a couple different drinks tonight.
It's true.
So this is EJ's. Is this your favorite, or is this like a highly sought after Japanese?
It was highly sought after. It was something that I had a year and a half ago when I went to Ravens Raiders in Vegas. We went to Nobu, and Brett brought me a shot of that. And I said, "Oh my God, what is that?" And he said, "That's Kaio, the sherry cask, Kaio Japanese whiskey, the sherry cask finish." And I said, "I think I'm going to need to find some of that." And I looked for it for about 14 months before I found a bottle, and finally found a bottle in August and bought it, opened it in September on a bootleg pod, and then saved you some. And we went to a whiskey store, which was great, in Tacoma today, called McAllen and Sons. And
that place was insane.
Completely overwhelming if you're a whiskey nerd. Great staff, absolutely know their whiskey and when things are coming and going, but asked if they had the Kaio sherry, and he said, "I don't think they make it anymore." And my heart sank. I'm not sure it's true, but I have a very rare bottle. He was very impressed. It's probably the only bottle I could produce that would impress that guy.
Sure.
But it's lovely stuff, and I wanted to share it because it is best, as all whiskey is, consumed with friends.
Yeah, I walked into the store and there were 3 bottles and that were in kind of a special shelf. Not a special shelf. There was behind the counter. He had like Macallan 30 year, things that I have seen in life, but maybe not in the wild, and certainly not ever going to be able to afford. Right. And then he had the shelf with this bottle that I have been searching high and low for. It was a Russell's 13. Any of you out there really want to be my best friend. And it's just sitting on the shelf. I'm like, how much for that? And the guy's like, yeah, it's a raffle item, dude. Like, come on. Of course, it's not just for sale. I didn't know. I just thought
it's going to the club.
I just walked into the land of milk and honey. I had no idea. So anyway, that wasn't part of the for sale items, but very cool stuff. Full top shelf stuff all over the place. It was really fun. We had a good time. And this is good. This is I wasn't sure what to expect. I've had a couple Japanese, definitely a little different. Like you say, the sherry cask gives it a little bit of rounds it out a little bit, and so that's kind of fun. But yeah, it's got a very scotchy vibe with kind of feels like a little Balvenie 15 single.
Yeah, it's got that sort of, I'm woody, but I'm not hard around the edges. I'm not super oaky or smoky. I've got that little bit of sugar on the back end, but still, like you said, the scotch is what starts it off, because if you haven't had Japanese whiskeys, they learned how to make whiskey from the scotch in single pots. So it has a very scotchy taste to it, and this rounds it out in a way that I think is really, really exceptional.
All right, so what we're going to do tonight is we're going to start the podcast here in a little bit. Obviously, like always, throw your comments in. We'll stick around for a little bit afterwards, and then I have to get back to an event in, just tons of stuff going on. I have had plans every single night.
This is the social butterfly right here.
Oh, 100%. That's exactly how the people describe me. So, but let's I'm going to write timestamps down on my phone since I don't have that, and then we're going to open this bottle on the air,
yes,
so that we can talk about that as well. But let's do that, and I will start a podcast here in a second.
And because we did buy something from the fine shopkeeper, we didn't just nag him for 45 minutes.
It felt like it might go that direction, and I was like, well, you'd have to ship it back to me. So that's
I'm here to save you, JP.
I appreciate that. All right. Welcome to Bears Over Beers. I'm Jeff Berckes, a writer for Windy City Gridiron, and I'm joined, As always, and live, it's EJ Snyder. EJ, thank you for welcoming me into your home. And how are you doing after the Bears lost to the Lions? I guess that happened recently.
It did happen. It doesn't feel like recently, though, does it? With everything
No, it
else that's
doesn't.
going on. I'm good. It was a strong game. It would have been great to see the Bears win at home, keep Dan Campbell winless on the road. But as it worked out, yeah, it preserves a little draft position. We saw Justin Fields show out again. We saw lots of other players show out too, including the one we're going to talk about tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, personally, I would have certainly liked to see Cairo Santos hit that extra point, and we would have seen a tie football game. Either Justin Fields, maybe things are a little different. He goes down and is able to win it in regulation. I know that didn't happen, but at least we would have gotten some free football. There was a lot of free football over the weekend. Would have been nice if the Bears would have had that opportunity, and one more score would have hit my alternate over that I put a bet in and talked about on the betting show. And that would have given me a really nice week. I had a good week, but it could have been a very nice week had these collapses not happened. What are you going to do?
Yeah, there's a lot of collapses. There's a lot of last minutes. We did get the chance. JB came out on Saturday, so we got a chance to watch all the Sunday games together at Buffalo Wild Wings. And there was a lot of games there where we thought we knew what was going on. And then, you went to the bathroom, you came back, and it's like, wait, they didn't finish? So yeah, it's a pretty popular ending this weekend.
The Vikings game was probably the craziest, I think, of all of those. I mean, the Packers thing, we've all seen that movie before where, the other their 12th and 13th and 14th players on the field start to help them out, and that happens. But the Buffalo game, that was insane. The catch for Justin Jefferson. I'm freaking out about this catch with Justin Jefferson in real time. EJ's engaged in a conversation with another gentleman who was there, Charger fan that's been doing some stuff with Bootleg. And I'm like, guys, you have to stop talking. You have to watch this catch. It's ridiculous. And I was like, I think this might be the best catch I've ever seen. And they're like, stop. He's good. We know he's good at football. Like, no, look, watch this. That was a lot of fun. I don't go to that's not my thing very often. If the Bears aren't on TV, I'll go to a bar. A lot of times I'll just kind of hunker in the corner, get the Bears game on and, grab a beer, grab lunch,
put your hoodie up.
Yeah, just kind of, mind my own business. But it was fun to have that interaction. We're sitting next to a couple of young ladies, right? They're Chiefs fans. One was wearing the Mahomes jersey, and they were there the entire time we were. They were there before us, and they were there and maybe even after us.
Yeah.
So they were there for we were there 7 hours or some insane number like that. And, so there was a lot of people that were doing the whole day thing. It was very, there was nobody there at first. And then by the time we left, there was a line out the door.
Yep.
So it was pretty cool. It was a pretty cool experience and enjoyed myself.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, and it's just great always. The one thing I do like about that, I too, like you, like to be able to focus on the game a little bit more. I would love to stay in my little cave and be able to take notes, but when I do go out, and I do go out pretty often on Sundays, it's the NFL diaspora, right? It's all the displaced fans of all the teams from all over the country that go to places like Buffalo Wild Wings so that they can see the Dolphins game while it's on, so that they can see the Jacksonville game every week or whatever it is. And, you see the jerseys, you hear the cheers. There was an entire side section that was taken over by the Raiders. There was 35 Raiders fans in there. So coming out of the other wing, you hear Raiders, and it's just good stuff.
Yeah, it was enjoyable. So we have a special drink that we're going to have on the podcast tonight. We went to a special whiskey shop here locally. Very cool. Had an hour in there where we were just, talking the guys' ear off. Just us. And then EJ bought a special bottle. So why don't you describe the bottle that we purchased tonight?
Yeah.
I say we. Yeah, it was EJ purchased it, so it's EJ's bottle. But I was along for the ride. Yeah, I got to carry it.
There was consultation. I was like, if I was to get a bottle, which of these ones would you like? Because again, great whiskey is meant to be shared. It's like great wine or even great beer. It's much better when you can share it with your friends. So what we ended up with is a bottle from a distiller that neither of us has had anything from, which is kind of rare, I have to say. And it's called Burrell, and this is their Seagrass. So it's rye whiskey finished in Martinique rum, Madeira, and apricot brandy barrels. It is 118 proof. It's cask strength. That means it's 59 horsepower, as the Irish would say. Comes in a beautiful bottle, and we're going to pop this sucker open take off the fine little World Spirit Competition double gold medal from San Francisco.
Yeah, so they talked about how obviously very different apricot brandy barrels aging. I mean, that's kind of bizarre. Never heard of something like that, but there was a critic that named this the number 2 whiskey of the year. So it's kind of this hot button item right now.
And now we have to. This is the.
You got to cork it. Oh, beautiful cork sound.
Lovely.
So very cool bottle. I have not dipped into these yet. Because I have this thing like I kind of want to understand each distillery as I get into it and try the different versions. And this is not it's not a cheap endeavor to get into this particular distillery. And so I have actually kind of avoided it because I didn't know anything about it, and you have to kind of commit to doing that. So if you guys are out there and you know anything about this stuff, let us know. But we're really excited, and I'm going to.
Here you go.
Oh, okay. I was going to put it off to the side.
No, we don't.
I was going to put it off to my side, but
yeah, you can have more if you'd like. I just don't want all that air getting in there because why would we? But no, it's lovely stuff. What do you think?
Oh, that's interesting. Oh, you can definitely taste the apricot.
Oh,
yeah, that's fascinating.
All right, and I will be backing this up with Bowie beer from Astoria, Oregon. I got one of their red ales that I'll be clearing my palate with afterwards, but
right, yeah, no,
does it taste like it smells? Because that's the other thing is a lot of times you'll get a big nose and then
no, I think you taste the apricot. I think that's fascinating. EJ's taking a sip, right?
Wow,
yeah, that's different.
Right off the crack. That is something special.
Yeah. You know who else is different?
I do.
Jack Sanborn.
Jack Sanborn's different. Why is Jack Sanborn different?
So here's the question that we're going to answer by the end of the night is with all of these reviews and episodes, is this a guy that the Bears can count on as a building block into the future? That's what we're going for this year. Every time we're doing these reviews, we're asking ourselves that question. Is this a guy that's going to be on the team in 2-3 years? And Jack Sanborn is a fascinating player. Last week, before this breakout game, EJ and I are texting back and forth. And he said, I'm going to do Chase Claypool. And I said, well, I mean, sure. But what about Jack Sanborn? And he's like, Chase Claypool's got more, they're going to be more interested in Chase. I said, okay, but what about Jack Sanborn? And we went back and forth, but this week you can't avoid it.
No,
it has to be Jack Sanborn. And so I want to start at the beginning. Obviously, the reason why Jack Sanborn's playing is because the Bears traded Roquan Smith and it opened up a spot for him. Jack Sanborn is an undrafted free agent.
Mm-hmm.
That is the lowest level of financial commitment and draft capital commitment that you can make to a player. And he is now a starting linebacker on this team. He has 2 starts and he has played quite well. So we want to start from the beginning of the draft process because that's where EJ learns about all these guys and shares his scouting reports about them. Well, I want to start there. When you were looking at Jack Sanborn last year, what did you see and what did you think he was going to be coming out? Did you think he was going to be a drafted player?
Yeah, it's the best place to start. And yeah, he was noticeable on tape. So Wisconsin tape got a lot of eyeballs. They had a very highly drafted edge rusher in Leo Chenal, and he's a physical freak. He is in Jim Leonard's defense at Wisconsin, which is all about, if you know Jim Leonard, forward and pressure, and basically stirring the pot. And Jack Sanborn's role was, in a lot of ways, to mirror Leo Chenal and clean up the messes he made. His job was to go in and just break crap. And Sanborn would come in and be the cleanup crew. And he was very, very good at it. He would come from the second level. He would come almost on what you'd look like a delayed blitz, and he would catch whatever flushed out of the mess that Chenal would blow up if he didn't get him himself. So Sanborn he had a lot of highlights. He had a lot of tackles. And what you could tell from his tape is that he's a really smart player. He took good angles. He's fundamentally sound. He was strong. And those are all admirable traits. The thing that tripped him up in the process, I did still think he was going to be a drafted player, was he didn't have a great combine. So we talk about RAS scores all the time. Jack Sanborn, 6'2", 234, pretty good sized actually for a modern linebacker.
Sure,
There's
absolutely.
a lot of guys that are playing at 215, 218. So 234 is good size. 6'2", not super tall on the scale of linebackers for RAS, so that works against him a little bit. His RAS worked up to 6.17, which is super average.
Right.
He was 838 out of 2,188 linebackers from 87 to 2000. So again, 800 out of 21.
A little above average.
Just above average.
Yep.
Really average athletic profile in almost every way. So RAS cards are colored, and if you're great, you get a green. If you're okay, you get a yellow. And if you have a concerning measurement or score, you get a red. Almost his entire card is yellow. Like it's just yellow top to bottom. 4.7340 is really the number that probably pitched him into the undrafted bin.
Right.
And basically, when you get in lower rounds, GMs want to take a chance on an athletic prospect. We talk about this all the time. Somebody with a lot of explosion, somebody with a lot of length, somebody that's very fast, very tall, whatever it is. They want sort of outliers. Sandborn just didn't hit enough or really any of those peaks.
Right.
So he was still available after the draft. 9-foot broad jump. Basically, they looked at him and said, this guy's an average linebacker, and we can get average linebackers in other ways. So he goes undrafted, which is still a little surprising because he played in Jim Leonard's defense. He had a lot of productivity, big conference, and he showed up on tape. So there was that, is he? But really, the Bears go get him, and they think this guy's going to be a practice squatter, or he's going to make the 53 and he's going to contribute on special teams. That's his role for year one. That's pretty much the ceiling. In the preseason, we see him come in, and he opened my eyes because he did things that he didn't have to do at Wisconsin.
Right.
And he started playing in space. He started playing with a little bit more range. He still doesn't have what you'd call true sideline to sideline speed. We'll talk about that a little bit in the breakdown. But he started to play much more actively in the passing game and going backwards. At Wisconsin, again, with Jim Leonard's defense, it was all about forwards. And it was like, wait, he can do these things, but he wasn't asked to do these things in college. And that's always a trip with scouting, or a trap. Is it because he can't, or because he didn't get asked to? And in his case, it turned out very clearly after the preseason because he didn't get asked to, but he can. And then he became a very intriguing player. Is he going to make the roster? By the end of preseason, yep, he's definitely going to make the roster. He's at least going to be a practice squatter. He's probably going to be on the 53. Turns out that that's the case. Nobody, I think, foresaw trading of Roquan. Roquan's a Raven. So what can Jack Sanborn do for the Bears?
And it turns out he can do things. And what I think is interesting about Sandborn is that there was some legitimate buzz about the Bears getting him as an undrafted free agent. And a lot of that's probably because people watched him play Big Ten football. A lot of Bears fans are Big Ten fans, or Midwest. They watch a lot of college football. A lot of times that stuff doesn't really go anywhere. That preseason hype, that undrafted free agent, like, oh, we got Jack Sanborn, like this is going to be a big deal. And you're like, okay, we'll see, right? And it kind of turned in like you said in the preseason. You're like, oh, okay. And one of the things I talked about with Lester on Monday was, if you're a instinctual linebacker and you're studying tape and you're playing so fast because you see it, right? You're anticipating. That closes the gap between your average, above average testing scores and the guys that are testing off the charts, right? If you're playing with anticipation and seeing things quicker, you're going to be in that spot quicker. And that's what you see older players, as they erode some of that speed, they get beat up a little bit and they just get older. You get a little slower when you get older, right? But because but because you have gained all of this football knowledge and you've seen so much and you've studied so much film, you start playing with more anticipation and you're at the point quicker. That's how a lot of guys extend their career. But this is the kind of guy that can make a career because he's able to play smart and instinctual. That's what's exciting about it, is because he's able to get on the field and actually do the job because he is so smart and obviously studies the game and obviously shows great instinct.
So you haven't read my notes, but it kind of sounds like you've read my notes.
Well, those are my notes.
I know.
Yeah.
But your notes match my notes, which is awesome. Instincts, vision, and toughness allow him to play faster than his time measurements, period. And you see that. You saw it on tape at Wisconsin, and now even it's sometimes fun to go back with what you know now about a player and go, what did I miss? What did I see? It's a great self-check for evaluators to be able to do that. And the one thing you don't see, the great absence on his tape at Wisconsin, besides things like pass coverage, are false steps. He doesn't run himself into the wrong gap. He doesn't move himself out of a good position into a bad one. He's always at the right place. And if he is moving forward in a positive way, in a way that's going to basically cut down an angle, get him to space faster to be able to make a tackle. Like, there's a great efficiency between his mental processing and what he does physically. And there's almost no fat to trim. Like, it's all efficient and focused.
Yeah. So, okay, he's on the Bears. He's had a good preseason. He makes the roster because he deserves it, and you don't want to chance it to some other team scooping him up and plugging him in. So he makes the 53. Roquan's traded. I think we were both pretty okay with that move.
Yeah.
Like, I think that the idea of trading Roquan, 2 years ago seemed insane.
No.
A year ago, you're like, no, that's not going to happen. But as things kind of broke down over the summer, they couldn't come to an extension. Some of the off-field stuff with Roquan, whatever. It was kind of like, okay, let's see what this kid has. And so far, I feel like one of the things that Jack Sanborn's done is say, this was a smart move by Ryan Poles to move Roquan Smith because you might have a guy here. And so I want to see, it's early and it's against the Lions. So let's say that.
Sure.
But let's go through what you saw specifically in his game. This is 12 tackles, 2 sacks, an interception that was taken off the board because of a rather BS legal hands to the face on Jalen Johnson. That is filling the stat sheet.
And then some. That's the funny thing about this is, so as I put it together, he played 56 snaps, which is 90% of all the defensive snaps for the Bears versus the Lions. 2 sacks, 2 quarterback hits, 2 tackles for loss, 9 solos, 3 assists, and what we're just going to call an INT.
Yeah,
it had nothing to do with him. And, it's unfortunate. Yes, it doesn't go on the stat sheet, but we all saw it, and he was in the right place. He caught the ball, which a lot of guys on defense don't do. If you look at that game, 2 sacks, 2 hits, or 2 QB hits, 2 TFLs, not going to worry about the tackles because tackles are kind of fickle. They go up and down. And an interception, it's literally better than all but one game Roquan played for the Bears this year.
Yeah, I can believe that.
If you stack it up. Now, Roquan, if you're a tackle defender, tackle number defender, we can have a talk about how teams score them, how the league scores them, why there's variance, all that. Tackles aren't the strongest number for me. I want to look at pressures for sure. I want to look at sacks. Again, that's not every linebacker. And then I want to look at certainly tackles for loss.
TFL is big deal.
That's a linebacker stat.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, they can influence that more often than the other two. The other two are really dependent on calls. Do you get to rush? Are you in running cleanup? All that. So to have all those, like, it is clearly a better stat line than possibly any game that Roquan had. But I would say one of Roquan's games rates above that in terms of impact. That's amazing for an undrafted free agent playing in basically his first full-length game, first full action game. That's ridiculous. Like, to be able to play better than a guy that, is in the all-pro conversation. He hasn't made all-pro, but he's in that conversation.
Right.
So,
been a second teamer multiple times.
Exactly.
Yep.
That's a stunning thing. That's guys that can do that don't usually end up undrafted. So Sandborn this week, I texted JB on Monday. I was like, I'm doing Sandborn this week.
Yep.
Like, we talked about it last week. I said, no, I'm doing him this week.
It's kind of like, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Of course you're doing it.
You have to. It's 2 weeks in a row, which is,
Well, I'll say that if they don't make that terrible call on Jalen Johnson and that interception stands, the Bears are going to win that football game. Right. Yep. And then it becomes either one of the Justin Fields games, but there's going to be more of those. But it definitely becomes the Jack Sanborn game, the breakout, because those plays were huge. Like 2 TFLs and 2 sacks and a pick. Like, it's ridiculous.
And 2 hits.
It was a fantastic game.
Yeah, I'm big on pressures. Pressures make a difference, even more so than sacks, I think. By the way, this is stunning
stuff. Yeah.
Like, every time I go back, I'm kind of like, oh yeah, I got it now.
The whiskey is quite good for those of you listening. It's pretty impressive. If they would like to sponsor a podcast or a season, reach out to us. Let us know.
Yeah, they had many other good looking variants, but this one I can see why it won the awards and made the lists.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's maybe it's the Jack Sanborn and whiskeys.
Yeah, it could be. But I don't know. You paid a lot. It needs to be a super cheap whiskey that's like super impressive and surprising. Yeah. That's probably the Jack Sanborn whiskeys. This is
so what do you get with Jack Sanborn versus what you had with Roquan Smith? And particularly, we talk about production, but what do you lose? And what you lose really is range.
Right.
Roquan is fast. He's always been fast. He was fast coming out, fast in college, and he can get to the sidelines. And he usually does. There are some guys that can but don't. That's not Roquan. He is usually out at the sidelines. Even in this game, there were plays where it was like, so that's what you give up. Yeah, Jack can't quite make that play to the edge. Okay, I'm cool with that, given the trade-off of draft position and how much it cost and everything else. But that's what you really lose. Other than that, I actually think you get some stuff.
Okay.
Some of the run fit stuff. Sandborn, again, played at Wisconsin in the Big Ten, played against a lot of rushing teams, played against a lot of power offensive line teams, Iowa, Michigan, Nebraska, everybody else, right? And he knows how to fit a run. And by fit a run, I mean, be in the right gap, show good technique against tackle, guard, doesn't matter. He took on both in this game. Get off a block and make a play. And it's that last part. It's that get off a block thing that Roquan didn't do consistently this year. He can do it, of course.
He got washed out a lot.
He got pushed around, especially in the early games. You don't see that from Sandborn. You see him at most sort of neutral. And even when he is getting driven by a much larger player, one thing he'll do is get himself to the outside. Like, he'll work himself all the way across the face of that block so that he's back to the sideline and kind of forcing the running back into the middle. So if he's not going to make the tackle, the guy's still not going to go around the outside. And he did get pushed in this game. He does need to put some more sand in his pants. He's a tough guy, but he needs to learn how to push back and anchor against certain blocks. But he is a rookie. That's pretty typical for rookies coming in. They need that year of strength and conditioning to really go, oh, damn, all of these guys are like the best guy I ever played in college. But even when he's getting pushed, he's contributing to making sure the play funnels back. And when he's moving forward to attack a gap and doesn't have the lineman make first contact with him, you see great form technique. Get in, press them, get them to arm's length, shuff them, get to your gap. Just classic sort of linebacker teach tape stuff. So that's really good. And I think it's probably even an improvement over what we saw consistently from Roquan.
I think that's fair. And like you said, he played in the Big Ten, and it's just like what you do, right? Like, I mean,
all the
time, you know how to kind of do that. And yeah, he probably went out there and was like, we're playing Detroit. You mean Michigan? Yeah. Okay. I know how to do this, right? He's seen those concepts before. He knows the steps. He knows how to step into the hole and make the play.
Well, funny. One of the earliest reps on this tape, he's running into Jonah Jackson.
There you go.
Who played at Ohio State, who he's seen before, right? So it's like, oh, hey, Jonah, what's up? Let's do this again.
Right.
Which is, that happens with lots of players in the NFL, but I thought it was particularly interesting. It was like snap 3 or 4. He's, here comes Jonah, and he's like, oh, hey man,
I know you.
Good to see you again. I'm going to go through, usually I go through more of the plays. I'm going to go through less of the plays and go through more of the notes that I got from all of those plays. Very smart player, almost always calling out things pre-snap. So you see him again. This is a guy playing his second full game for the Bears, and he's the one pointing out, no, he's moving. Hey, he's yours. Right? No, I got him. I'm going over. You go back, right? You see him very active before the snap. You can tell that mentally he understands the defense. I don't think he had the dot.
No, I don't think he did.
I don't think he's going to have the dot. Didn't matter. Was still calling things out to the guy who did have the dot. So, and the dot indicates the defensive captain who has the radio communication from the DC. That's when we're talking about the dot's a sticker on your helmet. So, indicates basically the defensive play caller on the field.
Play caller. Yeah, not the captain, but the guy that's going to make the play call. Right.
But even so, he was telling that guy,
Sure.
this is what I see, this is what I got. And maybe that was just for his comfort to sort of double check and say, am I right? But it was consistent. Many plays, he was pointing to everybody going, nope, get over there. Nope, I got this. So that indicates he's very active mentally in the defense. Still gaining feel in zone. By feel, I mean he guards a little grass. Again, this was what he didn't do at Wisconsin, was play going backwards in space in pass coverage. And when he did, it's what I'll call spot drop, which is the worst thing in the world, which is where like get your depth and stand at a spot. And then that's guarding, we call it guarding grass. Don't guard grass. Zone's not to guard grass. It's to guard whichever player comes into your grass.
Right.
That's your point. So he's still gaining some feel of when should I go forward? When my guy leaves the zone, what should I do? Should I follow him? Should I refill? There's a little bit of that you can see, the hesitancy. He's not playing fast yet going backwards in zone, but he is developing good spacing. You can see him looking around and like, where are my guys? What level am I at? Is that guy 7 yards behind me or is he 10 yards behind me? Okay, how far am I from being able to move forward and impact a play at the line if I'm in middle coverage zone where a linebacker can float? So you see him developing that, but there are definitely plays where he ends up guarding little grass. He ends up sort of in no man's land, like, oh, I didn't realize there's no players left on this side of the field. I should have been moving towards the play. So that'll come with time. Those are things that, especially since that wasn't his role in college and it's not what I would call his primary strength, he'll get that. Make sure to get width when he's taking on blocks, forcing the run back inside. We already talked about that. Even when he's getting pushed around, he'll make sure he gets across the face of that offensive tackle or guard and is basically guarding the outside so he can slide off and keep an outside run from going up the boundary. It's important. Needs to keep getting stronger and developing his leverage. Gets pushed around the point of attack if he's not attacking. If he's not the aggressor, if he's the guy that gets hit, he'll move backwards a ways. He's 234. He's not one of those guys that's just going to bend and bow up and sort of stick the offensive lineman in the hole. That hopefully will come with time. Lack of speed is an issue against running backs, particularly on wide routes. I'm going to say that again. Lack of speed, issue against running backs on wide routes. Why do I say that again? Because defensive coordinators saw it this week.
Right.
There were times that he got lucky. The back got wide, and there was particularly a play where he was 5:36 left in the first quarter. It was a swing pass to the running back. He's late getting over, and because of that, he kind of has to lunge for the tackle. Back just sort of takes an easy step back and then reverses and goes inside. Whereas if he was with him step for step when he caught that ball and turned and made contact, that wouldn't have happened. But that's where you see is like stringing it out past the numbers to the outside. He runs out of speed and he's kind of like, I got to get there. And then he dives and the running back's like, haha, ole, and goes. Defensive coordinators saw that. I'm not the only one. I guarantee it.
Right.
And offensive coordinators saw it too. And they're going to be like, oh, we have insert fast running back here. Or sometimes you might get him matched up on a slot player. They're going to be pushing Sandborn to the outside to string that speed, and maybe their guy can break a shoestring tackle because he doesn't get there.
I was on the Pride of Detroit podcast last week. They asked, like, where can the Lions take advantage in the passing game? And I said, well, I would try these linebackers. That's where I'm most worried about losing Roquan, is that I'm not sure about the speed. And you've got DeAndre Swift. That seems like a pretty good mismatch that I would try to exploit. I don't think Detroit did that enough.
They didn't. I would say they didn't do it enough, and I'm surprised by that because their offense has been quite good pre-game planning, I would say, especially for that, but a little bit some in the second half in terms of after half adjustments of saying, hey, where can we push? What worked? What cracks did we see in the first half, and how can we pry those open? There was a couple of plays. Again, that was a first quarter play.
Right.
And I didn't really see it again in the second half. Like I would have been doing that and angle routes against him just to, again, test that agility. I think his agility is better than his speed. So, but I would have been doing both, right? Mm-hmm. Get him to where he has to decide, break it back inside, and then full on just gun for the boundary on the boundary side, or the field side, the wide side, like where you have a lot of real estate, get some run, see if,
you're
See if you can get out there, see if you can get to the boundary. And if so, you're probably going to be jumping through what is a lunging sort of arm tackle to your ankles.
Right. Right. Yeah, it looked like a potential advantage for the Lions going into the game. Seemed like that might be something to be concerned about moving forward. And then, of course, the Bears are going to know what his limitations are, and they're going to call defense in a way that's going to try to limit that exposure. I mean, that's the chess game that continues to go on. But we'll learn more and more about all of these players, and that's what we're talking about.
Yeah, it's interesting. That's an interesting piece of like how to call the defense based on his strengths, because he's listed as weak side linebacker in this defense. He aligned in the middle.
Right.
When there were 3 linebackers, when they were in quote unquote base 4-3,
right,
he was the middle linebacker exclusively. So usually the weak would not be in the middle. That's where he was. He wasn't on nickel. It was him and Morrow, but he was never in on dime. That's Morrow's territory.
Right. They took him out for that.
Yeah. Morrow knows that better. He has better speed as a former safety. So Morrow was the dime guy. Sandborn was in on nickel, but again, when you went base, and they go base more often in Eberflus now and Williams defense than they used to, certainly. And he was middle exclusively, and you could see him again calling those middle fits. And it's interesting. We'll have to see how that balance goes going forward. And I wouldn't doubt that they're getting a linebacker back off injured reserve this week. Like, if there are faster backers, he might not get that nickel stuff as people start to exploit it. If people start getting success to the edge, they might go, hey, Jack, you're going to play base and you're going to play special teams. And he's still very valuable there because, like, he loves him some base 4-3D. Like, it is his happy place. He is the most comfortable in that alignment. That is Wisconsin all over again. It is the sort of least amount of translation, and he looks ready to go in that defense. Like, he looks like a 2 or 3 year vet. You were talking about players playing faster as they get ready. That is where he really sort of fits like a puzzle piece and goes, right. I know already, like, I'm playing fast.
All right, so let's take a quick break, and then when we come back, we'll have you highlight the rest of what you saw from Jack Sanborn against Detroit and kind of answer that question that we posed at the top, whether or not he is a piece for the Bears into the future for the next few years. Stick with us. All right, EJ, we're back. So let's talk about Jack Sanborn's performance. Let's round out this evaluation, and let's talk about whether or not he is a piece for the future for Ryan Poles and Matt Eberflus's defense.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. We're going to have to see, again, when any player comes in, there can be, and you hope there is, a burst, right? That they show something, right? That they perform at or above the level of expectation. We've seen that now from Jack Sanborn for a couple of weeks. So that's good. That's the way it should be. Now comes the hard part, because everybody in the NFL adjusts. Everybody takes that tape and goes, all right, what did he do well? What did he do poorly? Let's see if we can put him in conflict and then get some plays against him, because that's their job, is to exploit the weak places. So we've seen him in a place of strength. We've seen him filling the stat sheet. Let's see what he does with more of those reps, with more tape behind him that can be exploited. And that's going to be the telltale of whether or not he is a cog. He's somebody that they are leaning on. Even if they don't, it's a wild success. If you get a UDFA that sticks on the roster, plays special teams, and is a very capable backup if called upon, that's
a win.
You've already exceeded your mandate, right? That's great. And if he becomes one of those guys that can play regularly off UDFA status, forget it. That's a home run. So it's all about whether he can continue that high level of play, continue to evolve as people evolve against him, and quite frankly, increase his speed a little bit.
Right.
We saw David Montgomery do it. And, go get with a speed coach this offseason and say, hey, my one weakness is I ran a 4.73. I need to run a 4.65. Right. And work over the summer, whether that's getting light. Maybe he never ran track. I don't know. By the way, one of the reasons that he fits with the Bears, he played his high school ball in Lake Zurich, Illinois.
Right. Local
guy goes to Wisconsin, comes home, kid made good. Like, that's a sort of natural piece, and definitely led to more of that preseason mystique.
Oh, yeah.
And now it's all about what happens between the white lines.
Right. I think it's interesting, and I think I'm curious to see how many 57 jerseys we see right off the top, because this is the type of player that Bears fans will go a little nutty about.
100%.
And I understand. And you have the feel good story, and you got the Big Ten, and you got all that connection. I mean, I don't know how much crossover there is with Wisconsin fans and Bears fans. It doesn't matter. But he's a local kid, so that you forgive him for going to Wisconsin. I think that's kind of how that works.
Hey, you take your D1 tickets where you get them.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And again, that's a good defense to play for. They've put plenty of people in the NFL. No doubt about that. I'm just saying it's in the land of cheese. So, there's a little bit of demerit associated with that. But interesting to me that this is happening, because I just don't see a lot of people complaining about the Roquan trade anymore. And I also think that this is just the type of guy that Bears fans just find love for. He plays the position that Bears fans love.
Mm-hmm.
And then because of that undrafted free agent status and the story, this is a guy people are going to buy a lot of jerseys for. So after Justin Fields, I don't know how to rank the potential jersey sales here, but I would say Sandborn's going to be up. He's going to be up in the top 5 without any question, real quick. That's my thinking.
Yeah, we'll see, because I think most people probably have their jersey bought for this year.
Well, I mean,
it might be Christmas, right?
I'm thinking it just, Justin Fields number 1, obviously, both in the sales records and in the jersey number. And then after that, what is it?
Mooney has got to be up there.
I'm sure he's up there, but from now until the end of the year, what jersey sales do you think are going to be?
Oh, now between the end of the year is probably his strike while the iron is hot moment, right? Mm-hmm. If you're going to sell 57 jerseys. And honestly, if he makes a few more impact plays, if he racks up a couple more sacks, a bunch more TFLs, which are, again, right in his roundhouse from the Wisconsin defense. Right. He can do that already. It's not like, if he grows into it. He just has to keep making the plays that he's made for the last couple of weeks.
Right.
If he does that, it will be Paul Bunyan-esque, right? The legend will continue to grow, that this undrafted free agent has 6 sacks, has 7 sacks, whatever it turns out to be by the end of the year. Then that's when you'll see those jerseys hit.
Is the Paul Bunyan-Axe rivalry game Wisconsin, Minnesota?
I don't know.
Oh, okay. You don't know your rivalry games?
I know a lot of rivalry games, but there are so many.
Yeah, fair enough.
There are so many.
Maybe somebody in the comments will know that. But,
yes, I'm sure they will.
Okay, so do you have any more notes before we answer the question?
Not really. We covered most of them. I had a note about him getting away with one on the screen. We talked about that. Speed kills. We talked about that. Getting away with one on the screen was second quarter, 14:40 left. He follows Joe Thomas a little bit too tightly. And I feel like this is him with Leo Chenal all over again. So Thomas goes in on the blitz, and he basically follows right-hand side of the defense, and he gets a little too far. And the back basically gives him a little chip and out, and Joe Thomas gets his hand on the ball. He reaches up and tips it.
Yep.
If he hadn't tipped it, you could just see Sandborn going, no. Shit. I'm 2 steps too far, and that guy that gave me that really soft block wasn't giving me a block. He was giving me a basically
that was on purpose.
Right. Yes. And that's the kind of learning he's going to get. I don't think we'll see the mistake again, but he knew he was 2 steps too deep and was turning around. But if that ball had gone over his head, there were 3 blockers lined up. It could have gone for 15 or 20.
Right.
Nobody was more happy than Jack Sanborn that Joe Thomas got a hand on that ball.
Gotcha. Okay. So, is Jack Sanborn a building block? Did they stumble upon a building? And this is why you bring UDFAs in. This is why we spend so much time in the offseason talking about lower draft picks and UDFAs, because it's not just for feel good.
No.
You need to hit on a couple of these selections or recruitment pitches or whatever and get excess value out of them. Now, if that's a core special teamer that serves as a top backup as a UDFA, that's a win, right? But if you can get a starter into the future at a UDFA price, that's a giant win. That is a big excess value pick right there. And you're not paying Roquan Smith all of the money. You're not going out in free agency and buying a veteran, right? So is this a guy that you can see starting into the future? Or is this maybe a guy that's like, you're really happy with this guy being your top reserve and a core special teamer? Because I think that's the range we're talking about here. This is not, he's not going to be on the team next year.
No.
They're going to find somebody better. This guy has now solidified a role with this team.
Yes, he will be on the team. I think that's fair to say. Whether or not it is a leader on special teams and the number one linebacker backup off the bench, that is highly plausible. If he gets above that, if he does work on his limitations, if he gets a little bit stronger, gets a little bit faster, obviously he's already getting a little bit smarter. If he continues to stack those impact plays down the stretch for this team, it's going to matter. Like the coaches in their end of year evaluation will be like, Jack, you had 6 sacks and 10 TFLs in, 2/3 of the games or a little bit less. We want to keep you around. And at that case, he really becomes Bobby Okereke from Indianapolis, right? He becomes not the superstar linebacker, but the other guy that's actually really functional, makes a ton of plays.
Yeah.
And is there at a much lower cost than a Shaq Leonard or a Roquan Smith or anybody else. I could see him having that role. And that's really down to him and Morrow, I think. Like Morrow's a $4 million guy, not a huge contract, but basically what you're paying a mid-level linebacker.
Right.
It's what Kazir White got to go to Philadelphia almost exactly. So it's really like who fills that when you're talking about nickel, because teams spend more time in nickel than they spend in anything else.
Right.
Like, is he the second guy in nickel? And if he is, then he is a starter and he's at an incredibly reduced rate as a UDFA. Massive win. If not, he's the third guy that comes in base, and it's still a massive win because he's, making great plays as a special teamer. He seems to have the mentality where that would be okay. Like, I know he wants to start. All professional football players want to start.
Sure.
But if he is making a difference on special teams and he's coming in for maybe a third of the year to rotate between the linebacking core to, patch up injuries, whatever else, that's still a massive win. If he gets that clean win to be the number 2 guy, it's an off the chart swing for Ryan Poles in his first year.
I like it. And I agree. I really think that's the range right now that we're talking about. We'll get to see the rest of the year. You don't want to make decisions before you have the data. Right. You don't need to be forced into the decision before you have to make it, all that kind of stuff. I don't need to talk about that every single week, but this is an incredible start. And unless and until offensive coordinators exploit him and he becomes the reason why, they're losing games, even then you still have, okay, now I know what I need to work on in the offseason, right? So it's exciting. This is why we wanted to do this angle this year on the show, because we know that this is a rebuild. We know that this was a gap year. So we want to see, and we want to try to predict where this team's going. Who are the guys that we're going to be cheering for in 2-3 years, right? And when I say the jersey, I mean, I'm part of it's just fascination. I like jersey sale numbers and all that kind of stuff, but also, are people going to be regretting this, because you buy a jersey and then 2 years later it's gone? I don't know, man. Like, this guy seems like he might be part of this rebuild now. And that's pretty fascinating to me. I hope that this guy's around for a while because he's fun to cheer for.
I think that's the biggest point that I want to make is this is fun.
Right.
Like, we talked about finding your fun. We talked about it at the end of last season and how to watch when a team's not doing what you wanted to. We talked about expectations and how to approach this team, like, very consciously at the beginning of this season, because we knew it was a rebuild. Like, what are the things that are good here? This is so good. Like, this is fun. This is the, winning lottery ticket, whichever angle you want to look at. Hometown kid makes good. There are just multiple ways that the Jack Sanborn experiment, whichever way it goes, it's just fun. And right now, he's paying it off. He's making good plays. Better plays than much higher paid linebackers.
Right.
Like, this is a feel good story. It's a fun story. It's good economically for the Bears. Like, this is what you want.
It's going to be fun to watch him this week in Atlanta, right? Because he's going to have some interesting running backs in that backfield. There's some talent there.
Oh yeah.
So we're going to see a very talented offensive mind in Arthur Smith. How is he going to see that? Is he going to put him under the microscope, and is he going to try to exploit maybe the bad stuff that he put on film? My answer to that would be, I would sure think so. I have a high opinion of Arthur Smith, and I think that he's probably going to go after him. But you're also going to see Jack Sanborn play against Aaron Rodgers coming up. You're going to see him play against Jalen Hurts and Josh Allen. Yes, Bears fans, we have to play probably the two best teams in the NFL still on the schedule. So, like, there's going to be some very interesting offenses, very interesting play callers that the Bears defense is going to play against. They're going to give up a lot of points because they've been giving up a lot of points already in the last few weeks. They're going to continue to do that, but there's individual matchups inside of that you can still watch and try to pull a lot of value from. And honestly, right now, Sandborn is a guy that I want to keep watching.
Yeah, it'll be fascinating to see how he gets matched up. And specifically, if we're just looking at the Falcons, like the Jack Sanborn Tyler Algier matchup is one I want to watch because I think Jack's has a decent shot to get the upper hand in that one.
Mm-hmm.
Tyler Algier, very good running back, also a rookie. Jack Sanborn, very good linebacker. I want to see that clash. I think he's got a fair shot to take that matchup. What I don't want to see is Kyle Pitts in the slot.
Yeah,
on Jack Sanborn, because
that's got to be brisker.
Yeah, that's got to be a bracket with him at best underneath in the short zone. There are those places where he's going to find his limitations, but he's going to have to learn through that because all linebackers do. And let's be honest, there are a lot of linebackers that play in the NFL that are more limited physically than Jack Sanborn.
Right.
There are lots of them, not as many as there used to be, but there are a lot of linebackers that cannot move sideline to sideline. They are all about going forward. They're all about run fits. And right now, I'd say they don't even play the pass as well as Sandborn, even half a year into his professional career. So it's not like Sandborn is so limited that if he stays, it's kind of the Bears just settling for blah, blah, blah. There are a lot of teams that have their second linebacker that doesn't have what he has right now. So let's see how he grows.
I love it. All right, man. Well, this is fun. We will get out of here for the podcast after we kind of talk about what we're up to, what we're doing, and we'll stick around a little bit for YouTube. So those of you that have comments, please put them in the chat while we close up here. But fun stuff, fun report. Those are good. Yeah. It's better than putting together one that with a player that's not doing very well, right? This week, obviously, I'm traveling. I'm out in the Pacific Northwest. I will be back in home turf on Sunday for the gambling show. So make sure that you tune into that. I was just kind of bragging to EJ a little bit earlier today that so far this year, I'm plus 11 in the picking elements that we start off with Ross Reed. Ross and I are both doing quite well on our prop bet segment. I'm not doing well in Survivor League. I've taken 4 strikes, but so don't follow my advice on Survivor League. But I'm doing well overall. It's a really fun show. Join us on Sundays at 10 o'clock Central Time, and then of course Robert Schmitz and I are going to do the preview show. We're going to do it a day early. I got to do it tomorrow because Friday we're doing a little vacation day out in the Pacific Northwest. I think we're going to go a little island hopping. So
very nice.
We're going to have some fun there. What do you got going on?
Lots. We just launched shorts on the Bootleg YouTube channel today. Shorts are a big deal on YouTube. Look for a short almost every day coming out of Bootleg. Shorts on YouTube, for those of you that don't know, are a 59-second slice of content. Goes up on the main channel, so you'll see them there. If you're already subscribed and have your notifications, you'll see them as they pop up. If you don't, go get that done now. But it's just a way to sort of bring some of the larger, denser content to little snippets that, hey, if you like them, it'll bring you into the rest of the content. We'll have ones leading into the Thursday game. Of course, we'll be doing the Thursday night live stream this week. We will skip it next week because that's Thanksgiving and neither of us are going to be at home base for that. So won't have a Thursday night live stream next week, but the pod will come out on time next week and every week after that. That's probably the biggest news of the day.
Awesome stuff. And while you're subscribing to Bootleg, also subscribe to Second City. That would be great, but do that first, maybe. I don't know. I mean,
before you forget.
Yeah. Before you forget. So, all right. Thanks everybody for joining us this week. We'll be back next week to review the Bears Falcons game, the Chalanta Balkans, as all of the former Bears players that play down there and all the former executives that are scouting players and signing all the former Bears players. So that'll be a fun one. Stick with us. We're going to have fun the rest of the season. Till next week, bear down. All right, we're out. I got my timestamp sent to myself.
You've texted yourself.
Congratulations. I did. I sent an email to myself with timestamps. Let's see what we got here. Can I Can I have a little more?
Oh yeah, of course.
Because like, holy crap.
I'm really impressed. I'm impressed with a lot of high-end stuff. And
yeah, this isn't cheap.
No, this is not
Let's
a
put that.
starter bottle. This was a decision bottle of, it sounds good. A lot of other people have said it's good. The description sounds like something I would like. And I get to share it with my friend who also appreciates these things. That's really rare for me. So yeah, it's not break the bank top shelf stuff, but it's also not like, hey, I'll run right out and get one in case I might like it.
Yeah, of course. Again, a lot of deliberation in the store. We spent quite a lot of time with this guy.
We actually got a comment from the store owner who said,
"Oh yeah,
I have people come in here and do this all the time," and he said, "I've never seen anybody do it like you two. But then again, you probably know each other from the podcast, and this is how you work through things."
Yeah.
And we were like, "Yep, exactly."
Yeah,
we worked out the logic of the bottle.
EJ brought it down to 3 bottles after a lot of lengthy discussion, and I said, "I think you eliminate that one because you've had it before. You eliminate this one because I've had it before. Like just a couple other things, and we're both kind of interested in this, so we went that way. That was pretty funny." Fitzy, thank you first of all, and thank you for sponsoring our Buffalo Wild Wings.
Yeah, we need to give a shout out to
great.
Fitzy. When we say Fitzy, we're talking about Andrew Fitzy, who lives in New York City, originally from Australia, is a patron for both Bears Over Beers and Bootleg, and was kind enough to basically foot our entire bill for Buffalo Wild Wings on Sunday because he is a freaking champ and a legend. Thank you very much. We had a good time. We had a great time. We were able to share the love with some other folks that showed up, and can't thank you enough for all your support and just basically your enthusiasm for all the content. It's amazing. So
right now, to answer the question, I don't think I'm going to get a 57 jersey, but I love the question. I've been defending the orange jerseys and the orange helmets because I like the fact that the Bears are trying something new. I don't want to wear an orange jersey myself. I don't actually like the orange with the orange. I feel like they could do a better job of mixing and matching, so I would kind of X out the orange. I love the throwback. I think it's a great jersey. I bought a Mac throwback and because I wanted one. I wanted a throwback. I would have bought a Nagurski throwback because he actually wore that jersey, and that would have been the time to break out a Nagurski. They didn't do that, so I did have the Mac jersey. Here's the thing. I don't think anybody would call me a fat kid anymore because I have lost a lot of weight, but I've been a fat kid most of my life, and there's a big first of all, it wouldn't fit me. The Mac jersey wouldn't fit me anymore anyway, but there's a big fat kid stain that I can't get out because it's a white jersey.
Yeah.
And I spilled something on it at some point.
You're eating
so
there's
or probably something. So there's like a big spot right there in the middle. So I'm kind of like against the white jerseys.
Okay. I'm going to give you my top to bottom. Would love to see it. And I know people don't like it, but it comes about from the orange helmet discussion, the orange jersey discussion.
Let's hear it.
Whatever else. I don't like the orange helmets. I too like the fact that they're trying it.
I like that they're trying.
I like that they're trying, but I don't like the orange helmets.
Right.
I would take a navy helmet with an orange bear head on it.
Yeah, like
so flip
it.
C, put an orange bear head on a navy helmet.
Okay.
Orange jersey, navy numbers, navy pants with the stripes.
Okay.
So you got navy, orange, navy, different logo on the side of the helmet. And that would be cool. Like it would still be like classic, dark, light, dark. But the orange jersey, orange helmet thing, it's just not quite doing it.
I don't love it. I don't love it. So I like the fact that they are trying.
Yes.
But it's not for me personally. I have that orange sweatshirt. That's about as close as I can get.
I have the orange Windy City Gridiron shirt, and that's an orange Bears Over Bears shirt.
Yeah.
And those are my orange shirts.
Yeah. I like the sweatshirt. It's a nice sweatshirt.
Yeah.
I bought it literally because I was going to be out in the orange jersey game. So
for sure.
Connor, welcome. Only his second stream. Came from Bootleg. We like to see that crossover.
We love it.
Sometimes we get the other crossover, right? Start at Bears Over Beers and then follow EJ over. So yeah, the first time seeing me. So welcome, Connor. And yeah, JD would proud. I love that shirt. That's a great shirt. I'm glad you picked that up.
Yeah, I have a rack of Bear shirts now, or Bears Over Beer shirts, Windy City Gridiron shirts. We got the Justin Fields victory shirt now.
Yep.
I got my old school throwback 80s Bears helmet shirt, which is like this helmet that's on the blanket. Love that. So I have a stack now that I can go through for the podcast. Feels good to be able to like flip through and say, I got a lot of clean shirts. Yeah, it's nice. But I saw this one on the bottom, and it's one of the ones I don't want to just wear like on an anniversary or some special occasion. It's what I want to pull out just generally because
be in the rotation.
Jeff was awesome.
Yeah, no, he's a good dude.
Yeah.
Genuine. Never got a chance to interact with him on our podcast or anything, but
yeah,
he was a guy that like, hey, JD's going to be on, Waddle and Sylvie.
Yep.
What did he say? Like, it's like one of the. There's a lot of guys where you're like,
a team.
But he was. And by the way, his replacement, Courtney Cronin, fantastic. She's wonderful.
Hilarious story. So I was at. I ran out. It was Monday, not this last Monday before. I ran out. I went to run an errand. The place I was gonna go was closed for half an hour for lunch, and I just happened to show up in their lunch hour. And I was like, damn. I was like, well, I'm hungry, so I go across the street to a restaurant, and I go into the bar and I order a little bit of food and a beer, and I'm gonna kill a half an hour, and I'm doing a little AMA on Twitter, and I look up and who's in front of me? But Courtney Cronin. They've got she's on Pardon My Take, or not Pardon My Take, or
Pardon the Interruption. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think she's Around the Horn.
Yep,
right?
Yep.
And I was like, hey, look at this. Courtney Cronin, who covers the Bears. I'm in the Northwest, obviously. Everybody's like, whatever, beers on a Monday. And I was like, no, she's awesome. Anyways, love Courtney. She's amazing.
She's doing great.
From Minnesota. Was really happy. There was a gap there. Obviously, I think that was respectful. But when it was like, well, somebody's going to have to take the reins.
Yeah.
It is ESPN. It's the third biggest market in the country. Who is it? Oh, it's Courtney. Cool.
Yeah.
There was relief and
happiness. There was Vikings fans that were DMing me and saying like, you got lucky.
You got a good one.
She's great.
No,
maybe we'll see if we can try to get her on.
I would love to have Courtney on the
program.
Courtney, if you happen to interact with our content, reach out.
Or if anybody is interacting with our content that knows Courtney,
we would be thrilled.
Beck says, do we need some chocolate sauce? So listen, you need to tell the story. So at Buffalo Wild Wings, we are sitting there. I just watching the game, we've had a couple beers, it's a nice day. And this waitress appears at my side. She plops a beer down right in front of me. And then a giant bottle of Hershey's chocolate syrup. And
unopened, brand new,
and she goes, this is for you. And I looked at her and I'm like, no, I didn't order anything. and I really did. I was watching the game and I really went, and I was like, I didn't order this. And she goes, the guy over there bought this for you. And I go, I'm sorry, what? Like, I'm really confused. And she said, he said you would like fruity beers with chocolate in it. And I looked at her like, how would you know that I would like this fruity beer that you just, so it was like a pineapple wheat beer or something,
pineapple mango or something.
But... Well, I had the mango earlier. That was the funny thing. Those are two different beers. There was a pineapple beer. Couldn't kind of taste the pineapple, but it was a good beer. I liked it. Yeah. And then the chocolate syrup, which is premeditated. It's a premeditated takedown, by the way.
100%. So this was, first off, just Busman's holiday here. Just pure voyeuristic pleasure of watching JB squirm, like getting his focus pulled off the game, looking at the waitress, being confused. No, I didn't order anything. Then seeing what was given to him / ordered and going, what the hell? Like, how do these two? And about at that point, I realized, oh, Jonathan's here. He did this. So Jonathan Siegel, who is a Bears Over Beer supporter, lives in Seattle. He and I have gone back and forth in DMs for many years. We've never actually met until Sunday. He's invited me up to some watch parties in Seattle, and there's a Bears bar, which Jonathan, one of these weeks, I will make it up there. But he had said, oh, I have a hockey game in Kent, so this will work out, because I said, hey, JB is going to be out. We're going to be in South Center. Like, let's, and he hadn't said anything about this, but about halfway through that exchange, I was like, Nailed it. That was Jonathan. And of course, he came over afterwards and he had watched the whole thing from afar, and it was well worth the price of admission. Well done, Jonathan. Awesome stuff.
Yeah, I liked whatever sweatshirt he was having. I was still thinking about that. It's a cool. He had like a sweatshirt like Krabby's, Fisherman's Wharf or something. I don't know, but it was a cool little shirt. It was like a sly little, Pacific Northwest sweatshirt. I kind of liked it. I was like, that's kind of cool. I gotta find me one of those. So Lester must be watching. I appreciate clarification here. I did get that right. So I used to play a lot of NCAA football games, and of course you play a lot of Big Ten teams, right? So I got into the rivalry trophies. I thought they were fascinating. Like just the fact that all of these rivalry trophies are out there. It's kind of fun. I would probably fail a quiz in terms of like, I wouldn't get like more than half right, but I find them fascinating. All of these different cups
I would be mixing in the hockey ones.
Jeweled shillelagh.
And I would be mixing in the hockey ones. And
I didn't know there was anything.
Oh, yeah. There's Beanpot and Battle of Boston, the whole bit. Like,
no idea.
Northeast hockey.
I got nothing.
Sorry.
I got nothing. No, I got nothing. That's great though. ML Fields, I regret the Trubisky jersey. It was a leap of faith. The Fields jersey fits better, nice, and is somehow faster. Absolutely, way faster.
Well, it's way faster.
Way faster. Sure.
Not the Trubisky.
It's because you dropped the 0 and you got with the hero. I mean, the number 1.
Okay, that's classic. We have a fix for you. There is a site where you can go and get replacement nameplates.
Yes.
So you can get a Claypool nameplate for your Trubisky jersey, and you don't have to trash it because Claypool picked 10. You can get a Claypool cover up, and they will sew it on. And it's not cheap, but it's quality.
And
stuff.
You got to get somebody to sew it on. But like,
keep your jersey.
Keep your jerseys because you never know who the next guy is that's going to like take on that number.
Oh shit! There's a 57 jersey in my closet.
Who would you have had at 57? Oh yeah, well you wouldn't want to go over. That's
Kreutz, I might.
Kreutz may but he okay. All right. He established a level of play though that
That's why I bought the jersey.
Right, that you would
100%.
keep that, but he's been interesting lately. So. There is that. Daniel asks, how much will the defense improve during the year? During the year, I don't think it will.
Unless they're able to change the defensive line, you're not going to see a huge increase over what you have now if they stay healthy, because they are healthy right now. That's one of the good things about the defense. Pretty much the entire secondary is there. They've missed a few games here and there, but overall they have I would say starting 5 in the defensive backfield that they were looking at with Jackson and Brisker, Johnson, Vilder, and, Kyler Gordon. They've got those 5. They're there. That was their plan. That's working as well as they thought it would, right. I think. The linebackers, they obviously made the choice to move away from Roquan, but as we talked about on this episode, Sandborn's filled in pretty admirably. Then the defensive line is really, look, they had to get rid of Robert Quinn, and he wasn't killing it anyways, but Dominique Robinson showed some stuff in this last game. Travis Gibson showed some stuff throughout, but there's not a lot else out there. So you're not going to get pass rush. And if you don't have pass rush, your secondary is going to get tired. We saw it in the Detroit game. That's where I just don't think you're going to get like leaps and bounds. You're not suddenly going to see those guys come on and start, alternating sacks and really disrupting offenses. So I'd say what you're getting is kind of what you're going to get.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to get much improvement, and they're going to play some really good offenses here coming up. So it's going to be really rough. So I don't see much of an improvement. Bob, sorry you missed the first part of the show. We went a little early because I have to get back. So we're moving up a little bit here, and I got to take a train back. I'm all into public transportation now.
He's in the Pacific Northwest.
I'm taking the light rail and all that fun stuff, and all that. And I've also taken not public transportation. I've taken a bunch of Ubers since I've been here as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, go back and watch the rest of the show because it's been fun. Tony, love the orange helmet and the navy you're talking about. So there you go. You got a future in design.
Yeah.
Ron likes the setup. This is all EJ, man. I just showed up. I sat down in the chair.
Yeah,
and
I gotta say, this is the maiden voyage for two people doing a podcast in the same place in here. Like when Brett was here the one time that we did the podcast, we actually kind of took this show on the road and moved it out in the backyard because it was nice. It was the first week of September. It was the right before the Russ returns to Lumen game. And, we were like, we should do it in the fresh air. So we went out on the back cement slab and did it out there. But we've never had two people in here, which is kind of crazy. And as I was thinking about it yesterday, I was like, oh, wait, like we need sound for
this
people.
work? Right.
We have a camera. Well, what are we going to? And so I spent some time rearranging this morning.
I think it'll work. And, you'll eventually get this all finished out.
It's coming.
Look good.
Yep. It's coming.
Yep. Off season is a good time for that. Yes, Courtney was on Bill's podcast. I should have plugged that. I did remember that.
Yes.
But here's the thing: I didn't get to talk to Courtney, so that's the problem here.
There's still a lack.
I have 4 shows. Like she can come on any show of those 4 that she wants.
Well, starting with this one.
Yes, this one would be great.
Yeah.
So whatever. Let's see. Listen tomorrow when he's in the library. All right. Yeah, I'm sure. Absolutely.
We don't care where you listen. Car, library.
I don't think I'm officially famous at all. I think it's because I was with EJ that this was this was
the
brought.
Beer and the chocolate top.
Yeah.
Oh, that was a premeditated attack.
Yeah,
Jonathan. Jonathan is a longtime Bears for Beers listener, and he knows the JB beer type, which is has to be below 30 IBUs.
That's true. I'm not drinking it tonight, but I did buy one beer at the beer store that we went to, and it's not. This is the thing. I drink stuff like this too.
Yes.
Is this a JB beer? Because it's got stuff in it.
Peppercorn Imperial Wit. This is stretching your boundaries.
But this is something that's totally in my wheelhouse. So I feel like I have created a
false persona.
No, not false, but like it's accurate. I mean, at least it used to be accurate because that's definitely what I would have.
Sure.
Sure. I drank a lot of that stuff. I do drink other stuff. And then I am trying to get away from sugar as much as possible. So there is some
3
shifting.
things I love about this. The label is amazing.
It's a handsome label.
Monkless Belgian ales. It's from Bend. I love Bend.
Right. I had to get my Oregon roots back.
Bend is amazing. It's a Belgian style. I like wheat beer. Oops. We fell off that I like brewed with spices. Oh, we fell way
but the
off.
Peppercorn I'm into.
Whenever anybody says with spices,
I like those spices. I was into that.
When people are like, "Oh, Christmas beer,"
it's
like brewed with spices, I'm like, I'm out.
I
don't like that. But
I get it.
Ooh, well, you're gonna have fun with this because A, it's a 16-ounce can, and B, it's 8.2.
Yes, it's Imperial.
Yes, indeed. 4 peppercorn blend, fresh orange peel, and coriander. That is all yours, buddy.
Yeah.
No,
I think it sounds delicious. All right, number 1, way faster.
You know
number
what I would
10,
do with that?
Absolutely.
I would soak a ham in that and then bake it.
You're just, you know what? You just don't know fine taste when it hits you. The jersey is not orange. It is a blue jersey. I'm staring
it is navy.
Right now.
It is navy.
Old school Reebok jersey.
Yeah.
Travis Gibson been a huge disappointment. I think that he flashes. I kind of mentioned it the other day. Again, I think it was on the Pride of Detroit pod I was on. If he's your number 3, like you're really happy.
He's a number 3 end, and you're very happy with that. If he's the guy that you expect to be leading your pass rush, look, very few of those guys come from where he was drafted. I'm not talking about the school. I'm talking about the round, right? If you're going to draft superstar pass rushers, they come in rounds 1 and 2.
Right.
Like that's it.
Yep. Tacos on the way. Hopefully it's carnitas. Nose tackle. Sorry, I had to. Nose tackle. Better fit for. No, he's a 3 technique. He's
Taco.
No, for Justin Jones. I'm on to.
Justin Jones.
He's a 3.
Justin Jones is absolutely a 3, and he had some plays in this game.
I think he's fine.
Plays every game, but again, I want Justin Jones to be like your second 3 tech, your rotational 3 tech that comes in. That is ideal for him. I realize that's not how they paid him.
Right.
But that's his ideal role, is coming in fresh and just being a fire breather for 20 or 30 downs a game.
You're right.
Beautiful. Like, don't be surprised if when the Bears are on the clock, right currently they're at the 6th overall pick, if they go out and get Jalen Carter to play inside because they need pass rush.
Very early for that conversation, but that is
and
absolutely.
Jalen Carter can do both. So don't be surprised if they go defensive line at the top. Yes, they need another big receiver. We know that, but they also need pass rush. And all you need to do is watch the defense for the rest of the season to say, oh yeah, they could use some horsepower.
An interior pass rush, incredibly important in modern NFL. Donald, man, Bears fan since 1968, lived through the 1-13 season and losing Terry Bradshaw on a coin flip. Man, that's brutal. Like I'm glad I just as a Bears historian just get to read about that stuff. That would have been I didn't have to live through it because that sucks. I imagine that sucked at the moment too. I have been typecast, absolutely 100%.
But you keep evolving.
Ron, you are a new Bears fan. We appreciate that. 2016 is not that long. You haven't been beaten down into oblivion.
You will come to know pain, but it might be a different pain given where we're at right now.
Which upcoming team gives Fields the best chance for a breakout passing game? That would be this week. Atlanta. They're kind of terrible.
Well, they're kind of terrible and they're kind of injured in the secondary. As long as they stay injured, it is one of his best shots. Yes.
Yes. I am not a bad fan because all I want is for Fields to continue to grow in the passing game and the Bears lose the rest of the year. I can't really root for the Bears to lose. I understand the mentality of the draft position and all that. Don't worry about that. But like, yeah, as long as he's that's what we wanted at the beginning of the year was progress from Fields. And so we're getting it in spades. And so that's really what all that we should really care about.
Yeah. And we talked about that at the beginning of the year that, there were people that said, even at the beginning of the year, the best possible outcome for this year is that Fields shows out every game and loses by 3 because the supporting cast can't hold it up. Because then they get a high draft pick and you know for sure that Justin Fields is the guy. And if you come out of this year with both of those things, you're good. Now, I don't want the Bears to lose necessarily, but I understand the mentality. Yes, we'll just leave it there.
Yep. Why don't we end it? Yes, Donald. We missed out on Aaron Donald and Leonard Williams. Leonard Williams, who cares? But yes, Aaron Donald.
No, both of those 2 years in a row, and it was.
Oh, it was brutal. But Leonard Williams is not the player that Aaron Donald is.
But Leonard Williams next to Aaron Donald.
Well, sure, that would have been great. I'm just saying the idea that we missed Leonard. Yes,
at the time I was very upset.
The Aaron Donald pick was just brutal. But we'll end on this one. So, favorite player of all time. So my favorite player of all time. Growing up, my favorite player was Tom Waddle. I had the 87 jersey. I bought it 4 sizes too big or whatever it was. 2 sizes too big because I said, this is going to be my favorite player forever. I got his autograph at camp. I wore it all the time to school. I met Tom Waddle when I was in high school, graduating senior. He came to speak to my high school. We had some banter. It was really nice. And now, one day maybe I'll speak to Tom Waddle on this podcast or his show or something like that. We're similar spheres. He's up here, I'm down here, but whatever. Like maybe someday we'll have that conversation. He's not my favorite player of all time. He was overtaken by Charles Tillman. And Charles Tillman, it's part because I saw his greatness early. And I kept telling anybody that would listen, which at that moment was not many people because I didn't have a podcast or anything. And I just felt this like, I don't know, ownership of his career in a way, because I was invested early.
The guy you latched on
and I was just like, this is my guy and he's really great. You guys don't see it yet. He should be making Pro Bowls and all pros. And then he had the breakout year. And I just felt like I was living that with him. Right. And in this weird way, because I was just ahead of the curve of knowing how great of a player he was. And his legend continues to grow every single week. Every time a defensive back punches out a ball, they call it the peanut punch. Right. And that's an incredible thing. And then you learn about the human being that he is, the type of person that he is, and what's important to him and how he gives back and all this. And I, as someone who cares deeply about this football team, as someone who follows all this stuff, Charles Tillman is an incredible human being and an incredible representative of the Chicago Bears. And so to me, it's a very easy thing to say, this is my favorite player of all time.
Yep.
And I mean that in terms of I've studied the history of the 100 years.
Mhm.
There's a lot of guys I like
Mhm.
that, that I've never watched who were, died before I was born,
Yep.
right? Like, I mean, there's plenty of that.
Yep.
Charles Tillman is my favorite player in the entire history of Chicago Bears.
Yep. And with good reason too, multiple reasons, right? And favorite player can be about many things. For me, it's Walter Payton. That's pretty well known. 1983-ish. You're in sort of grade school. I was in grade school. Everybody's picking up sides and starting to decide who's cool. And, do you like Chevy or Ford? And yet you start to have opinions on things. And so certainly my family was Bills fans, but I didn't have a strong connection to that. I was like, it's a team I like in the AFC. It's cool. Like, they're good. But I just didn't have that deep love. And watching Walter Payton struggle on not great Bears teams in 1983, like, he was it.
Yeah, sure.
They needed help, and they got it over the next 2 years, which led them to the Super Bowl in 85. But 83, like, it was him, somewhat deep into his career at that
Very
point.
deep, yeah.
Like, slamming away, being Walter Payton, just being the one-man show, carrying and I was like, man, that's an amazing football player.
Right.
Like, I don't care about running back. Like, I watch him block. I watch him throw touchdowns. Of course I watch him run, but I was like transfixed. That is an athlete that is different than all the other athletes in that sport that I'm watching. He wasn't the fastest, right? He wasn't the speediest. He wasn't, Ronaldo Nehemiah, this Olympic sprinter, and he wasn't the biggest, right? He was incredibly solid, but he wasn't, he was just the best. Like, everybody knew that
Right.
he was the best. And something at that point really hooked me again, right at that junction of deciding what's cool and the color scheme and the history and Peyton. And then I got lucky the next couple of years, they ramped up and I got to sort of celebrate as a, again, people are saying, I started watching in 2016. Like, I started watching in 83, and in 85, I got to watch them just detonate the Patriots in the Super Bowl. It wasn't even close. And, I was like, oh, well, this is how it is when you're a Bears fan.
Right.
Like,
This is just what you
things
expect.
are good, and we're going to see
Right.
this all the time.
Yeesh.
Not so much.
Yep.
But Walter Payton, far and away, and it hasn't, like you, it hasn't shaken. Like, I've seen a lot of awesome players in the NFL who I loved. It's not the same.
I lied. I'm going to end it on this one because your wife says that I'm her new favorite podcast host. So we'll end it on that comment.
We'll just leave it.
All right, guys. I appreciate it. Next time you see us, I'll be back with my normal setup, but enjoyed this. And thank you for joining us and sticking around for a little banter afterwards. And I'm going to go back to downtown Seattle.
Right. Gonna go back north in the Northwest.
All right. Thanks, guys.